First 2009 meeting of the Wheat Ridge Planning Commission. May I have a roll call of members, please?
Ann Brinkman will be arriving shortly. Jim Chilvers.
Present.
Mark Dietrich is absent this evening. John Dwyer.
Here.
Henry Hollander.
Here.
Dick Matthews.
Here.
Davis Reinhardt.
Here.
Steve Timms.
Here. Can you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
I move to approve the order of the agenda.
Second.
That motion passes 6-0.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 17, 2009 meeting.
Second.
And that
Now is the
passes
time in...
6-0.
What?
I just said it passed 6-0.
What? Oh, it passed. Yeah, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. This is a time in the meeting where we lost my place. The public forum for anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any topic other than those on the agenda tonight. And our only agenda item is the comprehensive plan. So if there's anyone who'd like to speak on any topic other than the comprehensive plan, this would be the time they could step up and do that. Great, thank you. We got an echo tonight. Okay. So in that case, I'd like to open the public hearing for case number WPA 0803, a resolution adopting the Wheat Ridge Comprehension Plan, Envision Wheat Ridge. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. Sally Payne with the Wheat Ridge Community Development Department.
I'm sorry, I can't live with the echo. I don't know if anybody else. Can we just take 1 second? Guys, we have a brutal echo out here. All right, how about now?
Okay.
I think it's just coming out of there.
Okay, Sally Payne,
Great.
Wheat Ridge Community Development Department. Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, great. We're here for the Envision Wheat Ridge project, which is an update to the city's comprehensive plan. We kicked off the project about a year ago. It was fall of 2008. So we're excited to have the plan together and ready to present to you this evening. I'm going to do a quick recap of some of the process, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ben Herman, who is with Clarion Associates. He's with the consulting firm that we hired to assist us with the plan. So in terms of some recap, we had, in terms of the public outreach portion, we had a dedicated website where we had ongoing information about the project, meeting materials, surveys, and polls for people to take. We had regular publications in the city's Connection newspaper, as well as ongoing information on Channel 8. We had a 21-member Citizens Advisory Committee that met several times to provide more detailed advice and direction on the plan, and we also had a technical advisory group that was made up of staff and outside agencies that worked with us on the plan. There were several community events that we attended, that we held. We had 5 community meetings where the public was invited to attend. Wheat Ridge 2020 has been very involved in the plan, and we also had a booth at the Carnation Festival. And in addition, attended several business and community groups to speak about the plan. We've had 4 joint study sessions with City Council and Planning Commission to discuss the plan. The last one was on September 21st, and there was a memo included in your packet that detailed some of the changes and revisions that came out of that particular meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben.
Thank you, Sally. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. We good on the sound?
State your name.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ben Herman, Clarion Associates. My pleasure to be here tonight and present to you the complete draft of the comprehensive plan for your consideration tonight. I wanted to provide, for your sake and also for the sake of those in the audience, an overview of what's in the plan, and then we'll be happy to answer any specific questions you might have beyond my overview. Comprehensive plan basics, just to sort of cover these bases, if you will. The plan was prepared with an eye towards meeting the state statutory requirements, as well as to create linkages between your prior planning efforts, both your neighborhood revitalization strategy, your various sub-area plans, some of the foundation in the prior plan. Most of the focus in this effort was really to say, let's get more strategic in what the plan addresses for the community. And I'm going to cover that here for you over the next few minutes. It has a vision. You recall one of the first things we did with Planning Commission, Council, and the community was to try to hone and refine that vision. But I think more important than the vision, what the plan was built on were 6 key values. And this is sort of where we started as the issues that really needed to be addressed in the plan, and these became the foundation pieces for the plan, in that we organized the chapters of the plan around these 6 key values. A balanced mix of land uses, a focus on vibrant neighborhoods, community character. Fourth was a well-connected transportation system with choices or options for people in terms of how they can move around the community. A community that continues to have quality amenities for its residents and services. And then 6, kind of the overarching value, was a sustainable future. I'll talk about that as I go through the chapters very briefly. The cornerstone of the plan, as any plan, is the land use plan. This one's a little unique and different in that the guidance was you wanted a plan that was a little bit more strategic. How would we like the city to be, not so much what occurs on each particular parcel of land. That's the purpose of zoning. The purpose of the structure plan is to provide more strategic guidance, and the city is made up of a mosaic, if you will, of different kinds of places and how those places connect together with each other. The back of the plan map, when it's published, will include this how to use the structure plan guide, identifying the different types of places in the city. And we've organized the city into basically 2 kinds of places: assets, which are sort of the fixed pieces, the parks and open space, the public uses; foundations or neighborhoods; and then the activity areas, neighborhood buffers, mixed-use commercial districts, employment districts, and mixed-use employment districts. And this guide sort of shows the thread. I won't go into the details of it, but I know many of you looked at this and given us some comments on it as we've developed it, sort of tell you how do you work your way through the map and guides you towards the policies in the plan that help guide decisions for each particular type of area. Much like a traditional plan, each of the chapters is built on goals and policies, and those really reflect the 6 themes and the 6 key values. But unlike many plans, it's much more strongly linked to what actions, what strategies will it take to accomplish those goals and those policies. I'm going to take a very brief sort of walk through each of the topics of the 6 chapters in terms of the highlights. The first is economy and land use, and there are 5 or 6 key goals here that focus on building on the theme of making Wheat Ridge a community of choice, where people can live, work, come to shop, play, and for all ages, not just a particular age group of the community. And a lot of emphasis in this chapter on both retaining businesses already in Wheat Ridge, but growing on the businesses that are here, building on more employment opportunities for residents today and future residents, diversifying the mix of land uses as this community changes, as the community ages and new people come in. Needs are going to change, and we need to be dynamic and respond to those needs. Finally, there's a focus, and I'll get into this a little bit later, on key areas of redevelopment. There was a lot of time spent in this process defining where that was appropriate and where it was not. Areas that really are stable and should be reinforced to remain so, and areas where change might perhaps be a good thing over time. The second foundation is neighborhoods and housing. City of neighborhoods, I think, was really what we heard. People recognize the unique nature of the neighborhoods. They really are quite different than most of the other close-in suburbs in this region. But there's also some opportunities for change there, too, over time. And the plan spends some time on how that might occur and where, and how to determine where neighborhoods are stable and where they might be ripe for some change over time. And we'll get into that a little bit as we go further. Third key value is community character and design. I think this chapter talks about recognizing that, you know, we need to continue to have a distinct image. We need to perhaps reinforce the portals to the city when you enter Wheat Ridge, when you leave it, you know, kind of creating a more distinct identity and looking where we can to lift the bar on appearance as development occurs and as redevelopment occurs. Transportation, our fourth theme, if I'm counting right, is really focused on broadening options. We recognize that there's many major corridors through the city, but I think what we heard pretty loud and clear from our committee and from citizens who came to meetings, they want more choices. They want it to be a city that's easier to get around on a bike, by foot, stronger connections to transit, particularly as the role of transit in this city and the region grows over the coming years. So a lot of emphasis in this chapter on expanding transportation modes and working with the agencies that provide it. The other big physical plan map in the document is the transportation structure plan. It builds on the land use structure plan by defining the important corridors and also identifies areas where there are particular opportunities for enhancements, particularly for pedestrian and bicycle connections, as well as identifying those places where it's important to strengthen access to the major corridors and to places where people can use transit to move around. Community services focuses on, you know, the essential services, parks, recreation, community safety, coordination with the school districts, but also an emphasis on arts and culture and trying to strengthen that as a underpinning of the future of the city. And last, kind of the umbrella value, if you will, is a sustainable future. And the concept in this chapter is, as the city moves towards its future, that we maintain a balance between its people, the environment, and economic vitality, that all three need to be healthy in order for the community to be healthy. Finally, and I know we spent some time on this at our study session 2 weeks ago, is implementation. And there was a particular urgency when we started this process to really be clear about what to do so that implementation could begin immediately. And this is some of what we heard through the process that sort of helped shape what the recommendations are. Some of them are about economic development. Some of them are about some targeted zoning changes to foster where that might occur, but also some of them were about strengthening the neighborhoods, creating a mechanism by which more detailed neighborhood planning can be done, protecting the resources that the neighborhoods value, and finally was a focus on beginning to tackle the sustainability issue for the city in terms of tailoring it to Wheat Ridge's needs. There are 5 basic sections to the implementation strategy plan. You received this as a separate document. Ultimately, it'll be merged in, and the page numbers will follow. And I'll just touch briefly on some of the key recommendations in each of these 5 areas. First, under economic development, you'll find that there's particular reference on some areas that are targeted for development or redevelopment as places that really have the most potential for economic activity, for employment activity. You'll see many of them are, at or directly part of major corridors. And many of these locations already have significant activity today. Some of them don't and really represent the future. In order to accomplish those, we've identified some zoning code amendments that will need to be changed. We know that you've done, as a planning commission, as a city, continually looking at and updating those standards, but zoning, like everything else, needs continual fine-tuning and refining. So these are some targeted amendments that we're suggesting would be needed to go from, right now, for commercial uses, sort of as a one-size-fits-all approach to corridors, to tailoring them a little bit better to some of the specific differences in the corridors, recognizing the transit-oriented development opportunities as the Gold Line comes along, and then perhaps some finer-grained differentiation between industrial and employment-type uses as those uses have changed over the last, decade and will continue to change as the employment market changes here and in our country. Neighborhood strategies, sort of the balance of redevelopment and economic activity was strengthening neighborhoods, keeping those that are strong, stable, looking for where there are neighborhoods that maybe need some help, and identifying tools that can be used to strengthen them. This is something that Wheat Ridge 2020 and others, have been working on continually, but we think there's, as always, more than can be done to strengthen existing strong neighborhoods and help neighborhoods that need to be strengthened. Our transportation strategies mostly focus in two areas. As I mentioned before, alternative, non-motorized modes, bicycle and pedestrian opportunities, and missing links, and getting across some of these major arteries, but also looking at some key roadways, both that serve local as well as regional traffic, and broadening them so that they, in addition to carrying the traffic that they carry, again, can also be safe places for people to move around locally if they're outside of a car. A couple of natural resource strategies. We heard a lot of focus from the neighborhoods that what creates the character of the neighborhoods are the mature trees, and so there's some discussion, some recommendations about perhaps looking at strengthening protection of trees in neighborhoods. Then also there are some specific sustainability barriers in the zoning code having to do with local energy production and so forth, some specific fixes that we think could be done. So that's sort of an overall of the draft as you've received it. Based on the joint meeting we had 2 weeks ago, Sally referred to the memo that you received in your packet. There were a couple of specific requests from the Planning Commission and from the Council. One was that the notion of the neighborhood revitalization areas, clarifying that in terms of its linkage within the document, and we were asked to put some work into the graphics of these two plans to make them a little bit more clear that they're strategic and not scalable boundaries, and so we revised the graphic approach there. And then finally, with regard to the neighborhood revitalization area designation, there's a request to come up with some suggested criteria and a process for how that might be done. I know that that's outlined in the staff memo as something that, we put that together as a recommendation, and, would welcome any comments you would have as to whether or not that's something you want to formalize in that manner and build in as a planning commission process when there might be a need in the future to designate a neighborhood revitalization area. So I will stop there, and certainly any questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to double back to and clarify, either Sally or Ken or I can certainly address any questions you may have.
Before we take public testimony, is there anyone that has any questions for staff or the presenter? We'll get another crack, but
Right.
what do we do now?
I mean, at this point, can we point out and have changed any sort of type or inaccuracies that are in the plan?
I would suggest typically what we do
I just have two.
Yeah, if you have two, that's fine. And say we can also just have a general, part of whatever general action you might take, any non-substantive changes, because I know personally we can go through a document 9 times, and the 10th time we'll find 2 more. So, but please go ahead.
The two sort of typo inaccuracy type things, one is on page 2, compliance with state and local requirements, paragraph 2, third line down, says that the Planning Commission shall develop. So it probably should be either should or shall.
It should be shall, because it is a statutory requirement.
Yes. So we could strike should. And then on page 71, freight system, the Union Pacific Railroad line, I work for Union Pacific. I'm pretty sure that line's owned by Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
Okay. I could have caught that.
Those are the only two I have.
Any other, before we take public testimony? Grant? Do we have the list of, when you come up here, would you be kind enough to state and spell your name, and if you're comfortable doing so, where you live? And we'll take the testimony at that point. It's not so big a crowd that I'm not just going to read them off one at a time. Denise Balkus.
My name is Denise Balkus, and I'm on the staff of Wheat Ridge 2020. Our office address is 3798 Marshall Street in Wheat Ridge. And tonight I want to speak from the perspective of staff. We do have a board representative here tonight, which will convey the board's position. But both the board and staff, over the past year, extensively participated in the development of the plan through various committees, which Sally Payne outlined in her introduction. And from a staff perspective, and I have a background in city planning, a city is always about positioning itself for the future and being able to take what comes its way and hopefully to grow and prosper from that. And in the current recession, most cities around the country are just probably lucky to hold their ground. But so an important task, I think that, and Wheat Ridge has been doing this, it's been very heartening to see, is taking a lot of steps to position itself in a post-recession economy. And this comprehensive plan represents, I think, the cornerstone of that, because it sets the city's vision, and then the goal is that everything else will flow from that, and you'll be able to implement the vision. So since I've been with 2020, we've seen the comprehensive plan totally be revised. We've seen your urban renewal districts come into play. We've seen sub-area plans. So all of this positioning, I think, really sets the stage for the city to prosper. There's a lot of buzz in the professional journals, both real estate and city planning, that inner ring suburbs and close-in locations are going to be the winners in a post-recession economy, because people will want to live in established neighborhoods, in close-in locations. The outer edges of communities that have been dubbed the sprawl areas, again, are not going to have the same kind of financial structure to allow that to continue. So, again, the crystal ball is saying if you're an inner ring, close-in community, that's where development is going to want to go, on smaller sites, on close-in sites. And that's Wheat Ridge, Colorado. So I think all you're doing, you're to be commended for a very thorough process, for taking on some very challenging issues, and I think we just encourage certainly to continue on this trend and take some of the concepts in the plan and translate them into your zoning ordinance, translate them into design standards, and to make the plan come alive. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to struggle here. Both. It looks like Morel Athanasopoulos. Okay, thank you. Drew Filchik.
Hello, my name is Drew Filchak. I represent...
Spell your last name, please.
Sure, it's F as in Frank, I-L-C-H-A-K. I represent Wheat Ridge Manor Nursing Home and the businesses along 2900 block of Fenton Street, just a few blocks west of Sheridan. We span that block with some houses and the business of Wheat Ridge Manor Nursing Home. It's been there for 40 years, and we've got some questions about what this means for us. We're right across from the water storage treatment. It runs the length of the same block, and I wanted to know what really this meant, I guess, from the commission, these changes for our business, if it's going to remain a mixed-use area, if we're going to have any, if we're going to have to make special consideration if we want to make changes there, and whether or not it's going to affect not only our businesses there on the 2900 block of Fenton, but the convenience store that's on the corner and the auto shop on the far corner, and then around the corner the butcher shop. It's kind of a little community there, and it's just kind of, I'd like to put that out to the commission to see if we can find out what that really means. Will we remain mixed use? Will there be any other restrictions? Thank you.
Well, I think because we have a relatively small group, I'm going to take the liberty of allowing staff to respond in a case like this to the specific comments. But, you know, my view would be that this plan will allow for redevelopment along that corridor to take a variety of forms, and it allows for new opportunities there and hopefully stimulates them. But I'll let Ken take a more detailed explanation of what he thinks this does.
The structure plan, which is the land use map, if you will, for the comprehensive plan, as Mr. Herman explained, is intended to be strategic and not a parcel-based plan. It's not a zoning map, so it doesn't change the zoning or what tells you what you can and can't do on your property currently. So your area is kind of that you're speaking of is kind of embedded in what's defined on the structure plan as a neighborhood area. I think we've contemplated that within these neighborhood areas you can still have embedded commercial development and a mix of uses. We've also defined a process whereby if you want to facilitate or encourage more of that through one of these revitalization areas within a neighborhood, that you can do that, and there's a process to do that, so that if your neighborhood or your area wants to pursue that, that's certainly something that we anticipate and have a process set up for. So doesn't really change anything on your property right now, but I think the structure plan, sets the stage for strategic changes or reinvestments in neighborhoods in the future, if that's what a neighborhood wishes to pursue.
Okay. Yeah, I can't necessarily see many changes happening, especially in light of the water storage plant that's directly across from us and has been. It pretty much takes up that block and that. But I thank you for your time. It would been my personal goal within this process to ensure that areas like it's 29th, right below your site, had opportunities beyond this sort of level of stagnation that are there. And I think that this will allow that to improve without getting into the necessarily supporting or opposing changes within the interior of our neighborhoods. So that's my hope, what it's doing. And Kim Calamino.
Good evening, Kim Calamino, CALOMINO, 4070 Dover Street, Wheat Ridge. I'm here tonight both as a citizen and as a board member of Wheat Ridge 2020, and would like, if I might, to read to you the resolution that the board passed unanimously in support of the adoption of the comp plan. Resolved that Wheat Ridge 2020 supports the passage and implementation of the proposed comprehensive plan, commends the City of Wheat Ridge, elected officials, city staff, Planning Commission, and citizens for participating in the thorough process and creating a visionary plan inclusive of the key principles of the neighborhood revitalization strategy. Further, this board encourages the development of specific timelines and measures of success to mark the implementation of the comprehensive plan. That would comprise our only recommendation, is to look for implementation timelines and key measures of success. We're pretty excited. We think there was great community involvement. We appreciate the involvement of Wheat Ridge 2020, both through the process and as envisioned in the comp plan itself, seeing Wheat Ridge 2020 as a partner in furthering the vision of the city is something that we welcome wholeheartedly and look forward to working with you on. We're also very pleased that the plan incorporates many of the key visions of the neighborhood revitalization strategy and believe that provide a good foundation and a launching point for vision for the city going forward. And I think that Denise is absolutely right when she talks about positioning the city for economic recovery and being ready to launch into that new era, that new market. We're right here, we're right outside, and right on key corridors, and utilizing a strong vision with good timelines, implementation, and measures of success is really going to be a powerful tool for the city of Wheat Ridge. So I encourage you to move forward with your recommendation to the council that they adopt the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Gunn? Would you like to step up and speak? No, thank you. That's the last of the signed-up speakers. If there's someone else out in the audience who'd like to speak, they would still be willing to allow that to anyone else who wants to make testimony. Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to discussion among the Planning Commission. Oh, come on. Going to draw straws?
Okay, I'll say something. I was very pleased with the process and the people who made this document. I think it's the best thing I've seen in a long time. And it goes along with my goals for attracting families to Wheat Ridge and attracting people who want to shop in Wheat Ridge. And I see it as an action plan. And I'm just speaking in generalities. This is kind of a general document. There's a lot of little, there's a lot of little things we can argue about. But in general, I see this as something that is going to get Wheat Ridge going and improve what we have. Thank you.
I guess I'd like to ask the chairman a question. When we were at the meeting with the city council, the joint meeting, you expressed some concerns about the definition of neighborhood areas, whether they're a revitalization area or a more established area, and there was a response to that, and I was just wanted to hear your thoughts on how the response addressed your concerns.
Yeah, I think they took a really good run at the thing I was most concerned about, and particularly in laying out a process. One could quibble all day long, but I think this really gets at the meat of my concern between this and the changes in the drawings, which I think reinforce the idea that these are conceptual areas as opposed to literal areas, are important, and giving us a way to make a determination, or at least a starting point for a decision choice in looking at a proposal within a neighborhood, whether it's in an area where a new development would be damaging a stable neighborhood potentially, or whether a new development would be revitalizing an old. And this tries to give us a path to make that decision. And I think it's a pretty good answer.
Okay, because I do notice there's some large areas of neighborhood that I'm still not crystal clear on how, when things come in front of us, how we're going to make these sorts of judgments. But I guess there's enough flexibility that we'll be able to address them adequately.
The way I understand what we've been given in the new supplement says that there's this list of primarily 5 criteria to evaluate whether it's a revitalization or a stable neighborhood. And with that answer, we're then supposed to be able to, that should give us guidance as to whether some new use would be appropriate within that area or be the guiding on that decision point. As we have the variance criteria in the zoning code, here are the things you have to decide by. This starts us down the road of seeing whether we think a new proposal is a new attribute or a detriment to the existing condition, which is the decision that I think is going to be toughest for us over a period of time. Do you want to, how'd I do? Do you want to take a stab at that answer?
I think that's a good answer. That's certainly what we were trying to do is give you a path,
right,
and give the public a path to understand both that is something that can happen and it's an option that they can pursue as a neighborhood or a collection of properties that may want to see some things happen in their neighborhood.
Great.
I would like to comment on that in the past, I think that comprehensive plans spend a lot of time establishing boundaries or borders, and it had a tendency to degenerate into a border war of where lines were drawn. And I think that, as Davis said, that in this time we attempted to establish criteria of where those lines would be drawn rather than actually drawing where those lines are. And I think the staff and the public are to be commended for following through with that.
John?
I just was able to take part in the last comprehensive plan process, and I found it frustrating, and I wasn't entirely happy with the plan that came out of that process. And I think that this process went so much better. Public involvement was higher this time, certainly, than I think it was in the last comprehensive plan. Staff and Planning Commission, City Council all took many of those suggestions, and the Citizens Advisory Committee took those suggestions and actually used them in the plan. And I think we have an entirely different kind of plan this time than we had in our last comprehensive plan, and it's one that actually gives us a map, I think, to the future rather than what we had in the last plan, which I didn't see as a very dynamic document. So I wanted to commend staff, our consultants, the public, everyone who came to the meetings and took part, the members of the Citizens Advisory Committee, and my fellow commissioners for the work that they put in on the on this plan. I'm pretty happy. I'm sure everybody, you can never make a plan that makes everybody 100% happy, but this plan, I think, as far as its vision, is entirely different and more usable than the last plan we had. Thanks.
Anna? I know you had some concerns on that.
I just want to commend the consultants and the staff and the citizens for putting together an excellent plan. I was on the Planning Commission on the last go-around, and it was a very painful and seemed to be kind of an isolated process, where this was a very open, consultative, considerative process. And I'm very pleased with the outcome of it, and I will say that I can see using it when cases come before us. So my concerns went away when I saw the implementation plan, and the fact that there were actions and tasks, and I'm task-driven, and the fact that we did, as a Planning Commission, really contribute to the plan and gave some thought to it, and that's what I was concerned about, that this commission would be able to work with the plan going forward. So I have no concerns, and I thank everybody for their efforts.
Steve?
I also want to thank the citizens of the city, and especially the staff as well, Ms. Payne, Mr. Johnson, knowing firsthand how much work it is to kind of oversee one of these projects on a citywide scale. So my hat's off to you on that, and also to the citizens, especially during this one session, but also to just the busyness in our lives, to take part and to really want to be involved in the future of your community. That's definitely to be applauded. I think in terms of this plan, I think it sets a good framework for our future, and not just looks at our exterior boundaries on the Cabela's site and the TOD site, which are important, but also focuses inward and highlights 38th Avenue and Wadsworth, and even some of our immediate surrounding neighbors, what to do with Lakeside Mall and how that could impact Harlan and so forth. So I think that it's a very good combination of looking at the entire city and recognizing the strengths that we have, and I think it can serve us well. So thank you for all those that have been involved.
But I'm going to close for a second, but I did have one remaining question that I heard two different answers to at the joint session last week or the week before. It is my understanding that this document supersedes and subsumes the neighborhood revitalization studies and the area studies that exist. How do we see those documents interplaying one last time again? What's the relationship between this and the sub-area plans and the neighborhood revitalization? Could you walk me again through the regulatory standing of those documents?
Okay. This plan will supersede the NRS and the sub-area plans. We do have some minor conflicts, kind of taking this broader look at the city through the comp plan. We do have some minor conflicts with the sub-area plans that we will go back and amend the sub-area plans to be consistent with this plan.
Okay.
But this document will, supersede the existing NRS and the sub-area plans.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to say, because that builds into my real closing remarks. I've worked around planning exercises for some time professionally, and when I first started to serve as on commissions for the city of Wheat Ridge, one of the things that just astounded me was how much time the staff spent bending over backwards to write staff reports that ignored the actual comprehensive plan that existed. And the efforts that were made to try and make good forward-looking planning decisions against a comprehensive plan, which was essentially, from my perspective, essentially a comprehensive as-built, which mapped the community that existed, not the community that we needed to grow. And as wonderful a place as Wheat Ridge was, as it was founded, that land use document should not have been needed to be allowed to grow and move forward. So when this process started, I was very supportive of it, and I believe that we have taken a good step to looking forwards instead of backwards in terms of how we look at land use in the city. So I was fortunate enough to be in that process and have a tremendous appreciation for the process that went through. I also will tell you that I find it astonishing to be sitting at a planning commission with a comprehensive plan to propose to the city council, which is my guess from the comments we were about to recommend, without a single person standing in opposition. And I think that speaks highly to the work with the community and with the vision of the document moving forward. That's really all I have to say. And with that, I suppose I'd be willing to accept the motion on the issue. Anybody capable of reading it?
I move to adopt Resolution 03-2009, a resolution recommending adoption of the Envision Wheat Ridge Comprehensive Plan and forwarding this recommendation along with the resolution to the City Council for their consideration.
I second.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Good, thank you. All right. Any new business? Does anyone see any new business, Ken? We got anything coming up?
Nope.
Any staff updates? interviewing, were you not?
Yes.
Or did we already do this?
We have a new plan or two starting on October 12th, so a week from this coming Monday.
Good.
So real pleased with the individual that we were able to bring in, and excited to kick in some of the tasks on the implementation section once we fill that void again. So good news.
Good. That was my only other interesting...
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, that's fun.
Let me explain, who would think about painting I-25 stripes at rush hour?
Not me.
You know, I've worked around a lot of highway contractors, too. I don't find that unusual either.
Well, interested to see that.
I guess with that, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Thank you.
And that's unanimous.
Did I even remember to vote this time? I made the mistake the last time.
You voted.
You can vote any way you want.
He voted no.
Oh, that's right. Oh.
You voted on an action plan.
Yeah, it's hard not to go into